Hi guys, it's Rachelle here. It is currently the end of June and the start of July, and you know that means that it's time for a June wrap-up and July TBR video. Yeah, so in this video, I will be sharing with you all the books I read in June and all the books that I want to read in July. In total, I read 4 books in June, and I'm so excited to share with you my thoughts on these books. And for July, I also have some really cool book picks, and honestly also can't wait to share them with you guys. But before we get into this June wrap-up, I of course need my matcha. Okay, now let's get started with this video. So the first book I read in the month of June is Magnolia Parks: The Long Way Home. This is the 3rd book in the Magnolia Parks universe. It is a romance series and it's literally like the British version of Gossip Girl. I always find it so hard to review books in a series when it's not a standalone because I don't want to give you guys spoilers. So I'm just gonna try my best to give you guys an honest review of this book. This book picks up 1 year later after book 1, and I have to say I really liked reading this book. In this book, it just pushes Magnolia's and BJ's story a little bit further. There's new events and there's new drama, and we get to know and understand the two of them a little bit more. Magnolia and BJ are still just as toxic as they were in the first book. It really doesn't die down at all, and it's just as entertaining. The only thing I'll say is that towards the end, I kind of got a little bit frustrated with BJ and just some of the choices he made. There was just so many opportunities where you just wanted to vote for him, but then he goes and just does something that lets you down because you want to be on his side but you just can't. Honestly, if this was real life and I could give BJ some advice, I would tell him that actions speak louder than words. But overall, I did really enjoy reading this book, and it definitely was one of the best reads I read so far this year, so I gave this book 4.5 stars. The next book I read is Apples Never Fall. This is a mystery thriller and it has been on my TBR for so long. I honestly believe that I talked a lot about wanting to read this book, so I guess you can say it's one of my most anticipated reads of this year, but I'm not gonna lie, this book was just kind of a letdown for me. I'm not at all saying it was a bad read, but I just hope for more. This book is about this couple, Stan and Joy, and their 4 children. Stan and Joy are retired tennis players and coaches. They have sold their tennis academy, and their 4 children are fully grown adults now, and they each have their own lives. One night, this girl named Savannah shows up at Stan and Joy's door bleeding, and so Stan and Joy give her the sore kindness that she needs and helps patch her up, and they even open up their home for her to live in for a little bit. But a little while later, Joy is missing and Savannah is nowhere to be found. Besides solving the missing case of Joy, we get to see how Stan and Joy were doing in retirement, and we also get to see the lives of their 4 children and the struggles they have in the story. I will say that it's nice to read about the different lives and their backstories. However, I did find that there was a lot of repetition in this book. There were just so many times in this book where I found myself reading about an event or in a backstory that I already read about in the previous chapter, and just having to read that twice, multiple times, it just kind of annoyed me a little bit. Also, a lot of the answers to the questions we've had since the beginning of the book were actually kind of a letdown. They weren't predictable, however the conclusions weren't mind-blowing, which is what I always want in a mystery thriller. The pacing of the story was also quite slow as well. I think the term slow burn is usually used for romances, but can you also use it to describe mysteries as well? Because if you can, this is definitely a slow burn mystery. And slow burn mysteries aren't really my thing because I find that it takes away from the suspense. I know my thoughts on this book have been quite negative so far, but I guess I just really want to say again that it wasn't a bad read. I guess you can say it was like a mediocre read because I just didn't love it. There's only about like a 50% chance that I will recommend people to read this book, and therefore I gave it 3 stars. The next book I read this month is Daisy Hates the Great Undoing. This is of course again a romance novel, and it is the 4th book in the Magnolia Parks universe. This book actually runs on the same timeline as the 3rd book, just like the 2nd book in the series. In this book we read from Daisy, Christian's, and Julian's POV, and it just pushes their lives and each of their stories a little bit further. Out of all the books in the series, this one over here has got to be my favorite. And to compare this book to the 2nd book in the series, which is just Daisy Hates, I just found myself more invested in this one. I just found myself more invested in Daisy, Christian's, and Julian's story. I don't really know why that is. Maybe it's because in the 1st book we're really just being introduced to these characters, and in this book we really get to know them a lot better. But something I do know is that I love Julian with all my heart. He is honestly my new book boyfriend. While reading the other books, I actually didn't love him that much. It was this book where I really fell in love with him. I just think in this book we really get to see a softer side to Julian, and it kind of just melted my heart a tad bit. I absolutely love this book. It was such a page turner for me, and I gave this book 5 stars. The last book I read in June was The Inheritance Games. It is about Avery, who happens to inherit everything this rich man owns. However, the weird part is that she doesn't doesn't know this man personally. Avery happens to inherit billions, and it makes a lot of people mad because that means it leaves the man's family, the Hawthorne family, disinherited from everything. Throughout this entire story, Avery is set on this game to find out why she was left the inheritance. This book received a lot of hype, and I know everybody loves this book, but honestly, I didn't get invested into the story until the very end of the book. I'm not saying I didn't like reading it, I did. It was definitely very entertaining, but it just felt a little overhyped to me. And as I was reading this book, I didn't see myself having the need to finish the rest of the series. But that of course changed because once I read the last few chapters of this book, I was like, I need to know what happens next. So then I ordered the second and third book of the series. Something I will say about this book is that the genre is mainly mystery. I've heard a lot of people talk about this series and the romance element of it, but honestly, I didn't feel like there was a lot of romance. Maybe the romance expands later on in the series, I don't know, but there just wasn't a lot of romance in this specific book in my opinion. I guess only time will tell as the romance deepens in the other books when I read them. Something I really liked about this book though were how short the chapters were. I love when writing is short and concise. I find that it keeps the story engaging and it pushes the plot along faster, which I find essential in a mystery. Overall, this book was a good read. I enjoyed it and I gave it 4 stars. Okay, so those are all the books I read in June. Now let's move on to my July TBR, and the first book I have on this list is Yellowface. I'm so excited to read this book. I saw it in stores and it sounded really good, and I just knew I had to pick up a copy for myself. This book is about authors June Hayward and Athena Liu, who were supposed to be twin rising stars. But Athena is a literary darling and June Hayward is literally nobody. Who wants stories about basic white girls, June thinks. So when June witnesses Athena's death in a freak accident, she acts on impulse. She steals Athena's just finished masterpiece, an experimental novel about the unsung contributions of Chinese laborers during World War I. So what if June edits Athena's novel and sends it to her agent as her own work? So what if she lets a new publisher rebrand her as Juniper Song, complete with an ambiguously ethnic author photo? Doesn't this piece of history deserve to be told whoever the teller? That's what June claims, and the New York Times bestseller list seems to agree. But June can't get away from Athena's shadow, and emerging evidence threatens to bring June's stolen success down around her. As June races to protect her secret, she discovers exactly how far she will go to keep what she thinks she deserves. I can't wait to read this book. It just sounds so juicy with secrets and drama and tension, and I'm all here for it. The next book I want to read is I'm Glad My Mom Died. This is Jennette McCurdy's memoir. I grew up watching Jennette McCurdy on TV. So when she came out with her memoir, this automatically became a book I needed to read. I've heard nothing but good things about this book, so I'm so excited to crack this book open this month. If you guys don't know what this memoir is about, Jennette McCurdy was 6 years old when she had her first acting audition. Her mother's dream for her only daughter was to become a star, and Jennette would do anything to make her mother happy. So she went along with what mom called calorie restriction, eating little and weighing herself 5 times a day. She endured extensive at-home makeovers while her mom said, "Your eyelashes are invisible, okay?" You think Dakota Fanning doesn't tint hers? She was even showered by her mom until the age 16 and was also forced to share her diaries, emails, and her entire income. In I'm Glad My Mom Died, Jennette recounts all of this in unflinching detail, just as she chronicles what happens when the dream finally comes true. Cast in a Nickelodeon series called iCarly, she is thrust into fame. Though mom is ecstatic, emailing fan clubs, moderators, and getting on a first-name basis with the paparazzi, Jennette is riddled with anxiety, shame, and self-loathing, which manifests into eating disorders, addiction, and a series of unhealthy relationships. These issues only get worse soon after taking the lead in the iCarly spin-off Sam and Cat alongside Ariana Grande. Her mother dies of cancer. Finally, after discovering therapy and quitting acting, Jennette embarks on recovery and decides for the first time in her life what she really wants. I feel like behind every celebrity there's so much more to them, stuff they hide from the media and the public, and I cannot wait to read this memoir because reading that summary, it felt like a tell-all about how toxic the film and TV industry can be, and I currently work in the film and TV industry, so I think I can learn a lot from Jennette's story. Of course, there's got to be a romance in this TBR, so this month I want to read the fine print. I don't have a physical copy of this book, so I'm just gonna read the ebook version of it. Let me just read the summary for you guys though. Rowan, I'm in the serious business of creating fairy tales, theme parks, production companies, 5-star hotels. Everything could be mine if I renovated Dreamland. My initial idea of hiring Zara was good in theory, but then I kissed her. Things spiraled out of control once I texted her using an alias. By the time I realized where I went wrong, it was too late. People like me don't get happy endings, not when we're destined to ruin them. Zara. After submitting a drunk proposal criticizing Dreamland's most expensive ride, I should have been fired. Instead, Rowan Kane offered me a job. The catch? I've had to work for the most difficult boss I've ever met. Rowan was rude and completely off limits, but my heart didn't care. At least not until I discovered his secret. It was time to teach the billionaire that money couldn't fix things, especially not us. This book sounds so good. It centers around a theme park, which is perfect summer vibes, and it's definitely perfect to read this book this month. In this month, I also want to start reading Fourth Wing. This is a really popular fantasy book that literally blew up the internet. Everybody loves it. It has the highest Goodreads rating out there. I ordered my own copy of this book from Indigo, but because it's so popular, it's out of stock. It's out of stock literally everywhere, but Indigo tells me that they're going to be restocking in 2 weeks, so hopefully I will also receive it in 2 weeks, and hopefully I can read it this month. This book is about 20-year-old Violet Sorrengail, who was supposed to enter the Scribe Quadrant, living a quiet life among books and history. Now the commanding general has ordered Violet to join the hundreds of candidates striving to be the elite of Navarre, dragon riders. But when you're smaller than everyone else and your body is brittle, death is only a heartbeat away. Because dragons don't bond to fragile humans, they incinerate them. With fewer dragons willing to bond than cadets, most would kill Violet to better their own chances of success. The rest would kill her just for being her mother's daughter, like Xandon Ryerson, the most powerful and ruthless wing leader in the Riders Quadrant. She'll need every edge her wits could give her just to see the next sunrise. Yet with every day that passes, the war outside grows more deadly. The king's protective wards are failing, and the death toll continues to rise. Even worse, Violet begins to suspect leadership is hiding a terrible secret. Friends, enemies, lovers. Everyone at Basgiath War College has an agenda, because once you enter, there's only 2 ways out. Graduate or die. Doesn't that sound so good? I haven't read a fantasy in so long, so I think that's the book that's gonna pull me back into the genre, and I cannot wait. The last book I want to read this month is the Hawthorne Legacy. This is the second book in the Inheritance game series. I enjoyed the first book, so of course I have to get the second book, and I did order myself a physical copy of this book, but it just hasn't arrived yet. But when I do receive the book, I of course will be reading the book, and I will be annotating it as well. I really just can't wait to see where Avery's story goes, and I'm just so excited to jump right into the mysteries and the riddles they have going on in the book. Yeah, so those are all the books I want to read in the month of July, and that is it for this video. I hope you guys enjoyed hearing all the books that I read in June and what I thought about them, and all the books I want to read in July. If you have read any of these books and you want to share your thoughts on them, leave me your comment in the comments down below. And also for fun, if you guys want to just comment down below what you're currently reading, I would love to hear what you guys are up to as well. And I guess with that, I will see you guys in my next video. There will definitely be more book videos, so if you guys haven't already done so, be sure to subscribe to my channel, click the bell icon to stay up to date of when and what I post, and give this video a thumbs up if you liked it. Also, if you want to stay up to date with what I'm doing when I'm not making videos for you guys, be sure to follow me on all my social media profiles. I will have all the links to my profiles in the description box below. Also, I would just like to announce that I started a TikTok account. On my account, I also post book videos. I guess you can say I'm also a book talk person now. So if you have a TikTok, you should definitely follow me there as well. Okay guys, with that, I will see you guys in my next video. Bye!
Pull the key out the ignition. Run your mouth but I never listen. You hold me back, will never last. Keep talking all your shit. Wondering how all this started. You left me broken hearted. You flip my words, yeah, this love hurts. Keep talking all your shit.